Lord rather than solitary, being very quiet and quiet chanting. And there was a lot of difference in opinion from the traditional brahmanas, from the traditional society, about why Haridas Thakur should not be doing this loud chanting of the Mahamantra. So here I'll just continue to read. Japato harinamani stane stata gunadika atmanam cha punyati ucche japan stutim punita cha. One who loudly chants the holy name of the Lord is 100 times greater than one who silently chants, because those who chant silently purify only themselves, while those who chant loudly purify themselves as well as those who hear them. At this point, Haridas Thakur had completely defeated the so-called Brahmana, supplying more than enough evidence for his activities. But with a final appeal to logic, he gave an additional line of argument. Tell me what is wrong with that activity by which living entities who have taken useless births will be delivered. One person may maintain himself while another may maintain 1,000 people. Of the two, consider carefully who is better. This is the superior characteristic of loud chanting. When characterless persons are defeated by pure logic and Shastra, scripture, rather than surrender to the person who has shattered their ignorance, such rascals will take shelter of the false tactic of argumentatum ad hominem, attacking the speaker. That is, give the dog a bad name and hang him. Such persons will never address the speaker's philosophy. Rather, they will simply attempt to discredit the speaker, since they have no other means to uphold their confused ideas. Such fools are condemned to suffer by resorting to such a fraudulent tactic due to their committing Vaishnava aparadha. The Brahmana successfully remarked, now even Haridas has become a philosopher. I can see that Vedic culture is being destroyed by the course of time. It is stated that Shudras will explain the Vedas at the end of Kali Yuga. But why only at the end of the age? We can see it happening even now. In a lengthy purport, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur discusses the fallacious idea that by birth one is a Brahmana. Samskaras, purificatory activities, are no longer strictly observed, and therefore birth is not much of an indicator in Kali Yuga. Therefore, guna, quality, and karma activity are stressed, not janma. The so-called Brahmana correctly stated that in Kali Yuga, unqualified Shudras would attempt to explain the Vedas. What the various Brahmanas didn't realize was that he was the unqualified Shudra. By exhibiting envy towards a Paramahamsa Vaishnava like Haridas Thakur, he was exhibiting the very behavior he condemned with such contempt. Compounding his offense and digging his grave even deeper, he spoke the following unfortunate words. This is how you advertise yourself so you can eat nicely at others' houses. If the explanation that you have made is not true, then I will cut off your nose and ears. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur remarks, the atheistic fallen Brahmana animalistic propensity became more prominent. Haridas Thakur simply smiled and left that place, chanting the holy names very loudly. None of the members of an assembly in that place raised any objections to the nasty, Prabhu, I'm on 111. Yeah. None assembly in the place raised any objections to the nasty, offensive, and abominable remarks of the atheistic Brahmana. Vrindavan Das Thakur, quoting a verse from the Varaha Purana spoken by Lord Shiva, states, in Kali Yuga, demons will take birth in the families of Brahmanas to harass those rare persons who are conversant with the Vedic way of life. Lord Shiva further states in the Padma Purana, there is no need to speak further on this. Even by mistake, one should not touch or speak to those Brahmanas who have no devotion for the Supreme Lord. If a person born in a Brahmana family is a Vaishnava is a Vaishnava, a non-devotee. One should not see his face, exactly as one should not look upon the face of a Chandala or a dog eater. However, a Vaishnava found in Varnas other than Brahmana can purify the three worlds. The above quote actually precedes modern social reforms by centuries. By personal transformation, one can actually be elevated to a higher position in society. It is not by law, money, or mental adjustment that a person goes from a lowly position to a higher one. Rather, by education, by training, by transformation, by purification, one is relieved of ignorance, bad habits, and suffering. Ultimately, there are no real material solutions to material problems, although some temporary relief may be offered by material adjustments. The real problems, correctly identified by great sages like Haridasa Thakur, are birth, death, disease, old age, and death. No amount of material adjustment or mundane attempts at social reform can solve these real problems, which everyone must universally confront. The only way that such problems can be successfully confronted and social reform can be actually accomplished is through personal transformation by applying the practices of self-realization. In this age, the recommended means is the chanting of the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By this transcendental chanting and by following the ninefold practices of bhakti, one can achieve the topmost position in human society as well as become fully liberated soul free from all fear and distress. In a few days, the wretched and envious Brahmana came down with smallpox, and his nose melted and fell off. The very punishment he proposed for Haridas Thakur was awarded to him. Haridas was depressed by such incidents. To see the whole world so absorbed in bodily consciousness and sense gratification gave him pain, and he would sigh deeply while chanting, lamenting the unfortunate situation. So there's just one last paragraph here coming to Mayapur. After some days, Haridas Thakur came to Sri Mayapur to associate with the Vaishnava there. All the devotees were overjoyed to see Haridas, considering him to be like a member of the family. Advaita Acharya considered Haridas Thakur to be dearer than his own life and maintained him with utmost care. All of the Vaishnavas showered their affection and he reciprocated their feelings with great devotion. They discussed the offensive remarks of the atheist with great concern, lamenting their unfortunate condition, desiring the highest eternal benefit for the entire world. Vrindavan Das Thakur mercifully grants his readers this benediction. One who reads or hears these topics will attain the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Sri Gaurachandra. So just to summarize, today's reading really highlights two important points about chanting in a louder form rather than just quietly, simply chanting in the mind. Because Haridas Thakur is clearly emphasizing, right, when we are chanting the holy name, knowingly, unknowingly, there are so many living entities that surround us. We don't see everybody here. There are so many flies or mosquitoes or ants or bugs, or we don't even see all of them. There are also tiny things also microscopic where we can't even see. But when we are chanting the holy name, everybody is going to benefit with that. So that's the important emphasis on why we should be loudly chanting. But again, it doesn't mean that if we are in the group of devotees, we also have to be careful that we are not disturbing others chanting. But really important that we chant in a very soft but at least audible, so the other living entities can benefit and get deliverance from it. So that was the big point about that. And then this second point that comes to mind is also regarding the birth, right? There is also a huge emphasis about Brahmana is not only just being born by birth, but rather it is by guna and karma. So like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also explains so much about that. We think that usually culturally in India also even now, right, is like whoever is born in the Brahman family is only considered as a Brahman traditionally. But now it is not like that, especially Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. That's where in this Vaishnava Godism, like how we have following that, it is by qualification. When somebody has successfully chanted the holy names, and by your actions, by how you're following your actions and how you're following these in your personal lives, you can qualify yourself to be a Brahmana, and then you can also do all the services for the Brahmana. So that's where we have to be paying emphasis to. And then really, I said the 2 points, but the third point is also very clear about what happens, right, when we do any Vaishnava aparadh. So this Brahmana who kept blaming, who kept chastising, who kept, offending Srila Haridas Thakur, he suffered. He finally got smallpox and his nose melted away. So all of this just comes to show that we have to be very, very careful in dealing with elevated, in dealing with anybody actually, but specifically Vaishnavas, right? Because they are following, they have Krishna in their heart and they're following all of these. So we have to be very careful, because sometimes practically, I can just share with you even my thing, right? Sometimes I feel that we think about what is the right thing to do, what is the Shastrik say, and this and that. Sometimes we get so caught up in the formalities of things that we think that, okay, this is important, right? And we need to correct so many Vaishnavas because this is not, that's how it's supposed to be. But really, practically speaking, just be as gentle as possible, just give a lending hand, but really not try to offend anybody. And as I said, really, it is the most important thing is Krishna is in the heart, and the sincerity with which a Vaishnava is performing the service is the really important thing, rather than strictly following A, B, C, Ds, you know what I'm saying? So this is something, again, will come with maturity as we continue practicing. Like really, that's what it is. I remember once, I don't know if you all know that Prabhu, I forget his name now, Prabhu. Anyway, he was here. So they were just visiting here, okay, husband and I, both of them. And then what happened is, a new girl was just coming to the temple to do some services and things like that. And so she brought some rotis for them, right? So this Prabhu is like really elevated. But so they brought some rotis, and it was Ekadashi. So Ekadashi, we don't eat grains. We all know that, right? But because she brought it with so much love, I mean, then he's like, we are not going to say no to her. She brought it with so much love. So again, like if you follow the rules and regulations, right, we will not take grains. But then I started thinking, look at their elevated thought process, because they felt that keeping that girl's affection or the girl's reciprocation and not to offend her was so important, rather than him following the Ekadashi rules. So I thought, see, it still sticks with my thought, the memory that it was like so many years ago this happened. But that's just a simple example I wanted to share. But then